Ty Kroner, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the contribution. Any Dejuan Jones type of players right now rank low to Ohio State standards, but who could really develop into something promising?
Well, Dejuan Jones was he was outside of the top 1,000 of the 24/7 composite. So Ohio State doesn't have many of those guys anymore. Like Trey LaRue, I don't think he's going to become that. The lowest ranked position player in the 2021 class was 416. The lowest ranked position player in this past class was Avery Henry at 705. So we kind of have to adjust. Like, what is the top 1,000 under Ryan Day? Is that in the top 500? Is that outside the 500? I think in terms of guys that maybe are lower ranked and still 4-star would be Kai Stokes, the safety this year. Everybody really seems to love him. Everybody that sees him in person loves him. Everybody that talks to him loves him. I don't know. He's a safety. Was talked about as possibly playing corner under Kerry Combs, but looks like he'll stay at safety now. They have question marks at safety. I don't know that any of those questions are going to be answered by a true freshman this year, but he's he's towards the back end of this class. So I guess that's maybe Dejuan Jones territory as a guy to look out for. Maybe not necessarily this year, but down the road for me.
I think Kevin Wilson talked about Sam Hart, I believe, when he was at the Rose Bowl. And he was ranked in the 300s, I think, in the 2021 class. I think he'd be one to kind of keep an eye out because that tight end job's wide open. We don't know what's going to happen with G. Scott. Is he going to stick around? Is he going to make a run at that job? I mean, what's been the disconnect kind of with him? He moved from wide receiver to tight end and just has never gotten on the field. So makes you wonder, what the feeling is there with him. That's an important job. And if Cade Stover's not going to do it, then, somebody needs to. Looking back, Ty Hamilton was a guy in the 700s from the 2020 class. He's shown some things at times. Mayan Williams was in the 600s, and he's already done some great things. So Joe Royer was in the 400s as well, a tight end. I think they talked about him. So they've got some down-the-line guys who are going to factor on this team this year. And I think, nobody ever gives you credit on signing day when you sign a guy outside the top 300 or anything. It's just kind of like, oh, those were the throw-ins, or whatever. But, the way Ohio State develops talent, there's a lot of guys who are ranked low on signing day who end up being better stars and better performers, bigger contributors than a lot of the national top 100 guys. I mean, Denzel Burke, I think, was 168 or 175, and he showed up ready to play in preseason camp and won the starting job and never came out of the lineup and was arguably one of their top 2 or 3 defensive players, all season long. So I guess I've never gotten too wrapped up in the recruiting rankings. I just feel like how do you measure the heart of somebody? And just going to Ohio State as a student, my whole feeling on the whole thing after my 4 years was over was this wasn't necessarily about how much you learned. It was about how much crap you could put up with and overcome, kind of like you were in the military, hurry up and wait was kind of the the motto for a lot of things at Ohio State. So, that's kind of how it is for these guys who have the tediousness of getting up every 3-4 days a week at 6 a.m. to go work out. I mean, it's a full-time job, and who wants to do it? And that's something you can't measure just off of junior football tape. So, that's my feeling on that is that a lot of times those guys further down the list want it a little bit more than the guys at the top of the list who've been told, oh, yeah, you'll be in the NFL one day, no question.
Just to jump, Ty had mentioned he was talking more about upcoming recruits. Ohio State isn't recruiting kids in the 1,000s right now at this point. So there's no way necessarily to gauge that because there's this amount of kids that are recruited, and then everybody else is wide open at this point. And sometimes those guys that are 700, 800, 1,000 on the list, recruiting services, say what you will about whether you agree with them or disagree with them. I think each year they get a little bit better and a little bit better. And I don't think that there is many hidden gems, which brings me off to another rant that I'll make very quickly so I don't drag this down with that. But I don't think there's a reason for them to be necessarily looking at guys that are projects right now. You look at projects because you miss in other places. My rant is everybody talking about Cooper Kupp being a 0-star. That's a load of crap. He was just not assigned stars, and recruiting services don't go through and backfill guys at that point. I've worked for a recruiting service for years and years and years, and if you went to an FBS program, maybe they threw 2 stars on you just so, oh, well, we look smart. At least we rated you. Kid went to an FCS school. They didn't backfill any stars on there. It wasn't because they thought that the kid was a 0-star talent and that he wasn't worth a darn. It's because they just never rated him. So all this talk about the kid being a 0-star is a load of hooey.
And I'll add one thing more on Dejuan Jones. He committed on signing day. Like, he had an official visit in January, so they knew about him at this point, but they weren't trying all that hard to get at him. Like, that guy is down the road. You're not worried about him right now. You may keep in touch just in case. You send a text saying, hey, keep working. We're watching. And then when you figure out, well, crap, now we're in a world of hurt, we need to find a tackle, then you go, well, let's see what Dejuan Jones is doing. That's how that process goes right now.